Welcome to Community Involvement and Landowner Outreach. In this first session, we'll take a look at a concept on occupational prestige. My name is Mike Smulligan. I'm a forester with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. A few years ago, I read an article in the Journal of Forestry on a review of changes in the U.S. logging businesses from 1980 to present. And it was a very interesting article looking at the significant changes that have happened in the last 40 years in the logging industry across the country. The article highlighted the things that have changed dramatically, like the different harvesting systems that are now used by loggers, the amazing equipment and the mechanization of the harvesting systems that are now used in logging, commonly here in Michigan and around the country. Looking at differences in production rates and the employment numbers and how those have changed over 40 years. The amount of capital that a logger needs to invest in this very expensive harvesting equipment, the capacity of the overall industry and the profitability, innovation within the industry, and sustainability related to the advent and now the common forest certification programs that are used throughout the United States. The Forest Stewardship Council, the Sustainable Forestry Initiative that this training is part of, as well as the American Tree Farm System for family forest landowners. So the logging industry really has come a long ways in the last 40 years in terms of increasing sustainability, in large part due to forest certification and the standards and principles that SFI and others are promoting. But one little item in this journal article that really caught my attention was this idea about occupational prestige. And it was just one small paragraph in this long article, but it was interesting to hear how loggers, in this case, it was loggers in the New England area, were really concerned about occupational prestige and how they were perceived by their community and even by the foresters that they worked with. And so this is really an interesting concept that I'd like to explore here before we take a look at community involvement in landowner outreach. This idea of occupational prestige. What do people think about your occupation as a logger? And this is an interesting concept to think about, both in terms of how loggers are understood and treated and respected in your local community, as well as statewide in other parts of the state where logging is not common. Most of the loggers that are participating in Sustainable Forestry Initiative training are working in the northern lower peninsula or the upper peninsula of Michigan, where forests are common and forest management and the forest products industry is an everyday part of life in that part of the state. But in the southern part of the lower peninsula, which is dominated by agriculture and urban areas and industry, there's less understanding of loggers and what they do. And so these are interesting concepts that I think we need to wrestle with here in terms of what is the prestige associated with logging? And do people trust and respect and admire loggers? And are there things that we can be doing to increase occupational prestige for loggers? So I'd like to argue that there are at least four different ways that we can increase occupational prestige for loggers and truckers and those in the forest products industry. And we'll go over a couple of these here in this opening session on community involvement and landowner outreach. I'd like to suggest that pride in our work is the foundation for occupational prestige. Um, I always admire people that are proud of their work and do the best that they can, no matter what their job is or what their industry. And I think that if people see that loggers are proud of the work that they're doing and take pride in their work and are interested in getting better at the things that they do, I think that the public will see that and respect that. Forest certification is certainly a way to increase occupational prestige. Ecosystem services, talking about clean water and clean air and wildlife habitat and recreation and all the benefits that a healthy forest ecosystem provides is something that I think that we as loggers and truckers in the forest products industry need to promote as well. And then finally, investing in our community and engaging directly with the community and the public is a way to increase occupational prestige. So let's take a closer look at each of these four items. So pride in our work. Again, I like working with people that are proud of their work and are doing the best that they can and want to get even better at the work that they're doing. And it doesn't matter what that particular job may be. If someone is proud of their work, people respect that. And so I think that there's a couple different ways that we can show pride in our work as those in the forest products industry. First of all, I think engaging with the public and having open houses to invite people into our facilities or to show a field day or a tour of a logging site, I think is an opportunity for people to show that we're proud of the work that we're doing. Wheels to Woods is a program administered by the Michigan Tree Farm Committee that provides funding to local schools to go on a field trip to visit a forest or a forest products company. And Wheels to Woods would love to provide funding to your local school to bring students out into the woods to visit an active logging job or to visit the local sawmill to see where the logs go after they're harvested in the woods. This photo here on the right is Bill Brand in Newberry and his son Eli. Bill owns Northland Harvesting in Newberry, and a couple years ago, Bill was hosting a Wheels to Woods trip for local schools and the Michigan Forest Association and the Michigan Tree Farm System to show landowners and school kids, what happens, when a log is harvested in the woods and how it's taken to the mill. And so I thought that Bill and Eli did a really nice job of showcasing, their pride in their industry and showing all the cool things that they were doing as loggers in the Newberry area. Other ways to show pride in our work is to utilize professional credentials to show that we are proud of the work that we're doing. Joining the Michigan Association of Timbermen or the Great Lakes Timber Professionals, becoming a master logger, or even attending this training through the Sustainable Forestry Initiative is a credential. All those who have gone through Sustainable Forestry Initiative training, the 16 hours of core training, and maintain their 4 hours of elective refresher training every year are considered qualified logging professionals by the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. And that is a credential that you can use to let your customers and your neighbors know that you're proud of the work that you do. Forest certification is another important way to show pride in the work that we're doing as loggers and truckers and those involved with the forest products industry. Forest certification is important because it defines what good forest management and what responsible chain of custody is for forest products. The Sustainable Forestry Initiative has 14 principles and 3 different standards, and we'll take a look at those more in the upcoming sessions. But forest certification is important, and a forest certification is about educating the public about good land management and responsible procurement of forest products. And Sustainable Forestry Initiative is really working hard to be a brand name that is associated with good forest management. And as a logger or a trucker that's trained as a qualified logging professional through the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, you can associate yourself with that internationally recognized brand of good work in the woods. Ecosystem services is an incredibly important part of forests. And I think that the public, even though everyone in Michigan lives in a home built with 2x4s that are coming from the forest and are used dozens of forest products in their daily life, whether it's a cardboard box getting shipped in the mail to their house, or whether it's toilet paper or the dozens of other forest products. I think that a lot of people take those for granted, but things that they do value, that the public does value, is things like clean air and clean water and recreation and wildlife habitat and all the important things that forests provide that are not necessarily captured in the marketplace. And even though And actually, because you are not being compensated for these products, clean water and clean air and wildlife habitat, I think that people have a higher level of trust and respect when they recognize that loggers and foresters and land managers are really working hard to provide these public goods and these ecosystem services, even though you're not being compensated for it. Forest for Fish is an example of how forests provide abundant clean water and quality fish habitat, and Forest for Fish is working hard to showcase how when loggers use best management practices, you are protecting water quality and providing benefits on site and downstream for recreation and angling and clean water and all these ecosystem services that forests provide. So using these Forest for Fish materials and the branding associated with Forest for Fish is a good way for you to showcase, your occupational prestige. Finally, investing in your community is a great way to show pride in your work and to increase occupational prestige. And engaging with local schools and scout groups and sponsoring the local Little League team, participating in the 4th of July parade. These are all some simple ways that you can invest in your local community and show that you're proud to be a logger or a trucker working in the forest products industry and can really start to increase occupational prestige and the public's understanding and respect for the forest products industry here in Michigan. So finally, in summary, we've got 4 take-home messages associated with the community involvement and landowner outreach SFI session. And in this first session, we've taken a look at this concept of occupational prestige and a couple of simple ways that we can increase occupational prestige for loggers and truckers and those working in the forest products industry.